Back to Zanpakuto theory video, and seeing as I'm going kind of squad by squad, we're looking at the former Squad 10 captain, Isshin Shiba, now known as Isshin Kurosaki, and his Zanpakuto Engetsu. First off, we got to figure out kind of what his Shikai actually does, but more importantly, the theory obviously going with today is what his Bankai does. Because we never saw his Bankai. We do have little hints of what his Bankai does to an extent. It's kind of like Urahara saying my Bankai is not fit for lending its power to people. We have offhand comments about what the Bankai does indefinitely to him, not necessarily to other people. But Isshin Kurosaki, the father of Ichigo, was the former captain of Squad 10. Now he is basically, it kind of depends on how, he's not part of the 13 Court Guard squad, but they've never come to get him. I'm not even sure they're aware he's still alive, to be honest. Because, I mean, when Isshin finally arrived to fight Aizen, it's not like anyone was really conscious there to like know. It's like, oh, form Isshin Shiba, you're still alive. No, there was nothing like that, and he really never shows himself to any of the other guys. Either way, his Zanpakuto is Engetsu, which is Scathing Moon, whereas Ichigo's Zangetsu is Piercing Moon. Its command is burn. When it basically activates, the sword does not change its shape upon release, but the blade is sheathed in a flame-like spiritual energy, which engulfs the sword's tassels, creating a long trailing stream. It almost seems like the fire actually originates from the tassels, which is very interesting. Now, obviously, this is a colored image that you can actually find just on the the fandom site, the official wiki, if you will. But we don't actually know if it looks like fire or if it might be like blue fire or white fire or anything like that. We know that he's actually capable of using Getsuga Tensho, and it looks more or less like Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho, which actually tells me that the flame's color is probably closer to a white-blue than your standard flame color here. Also, what's interesting is that he doesn't need to release his blade in order to use a Getsuga Tensho, which is very weird. During his battle with Aizen, he uses it. He said, there's just nothing that's really specifying exactly how he did that. There's only one unnamed attack we see from the blade. It's when he's wounded, he can take his blood, spit it into the sword, releasing a large amount of energy from the sword that slams into the opponent. The attack has enough power to blow off White's, the experimental Hollow's arm, who arguably might have been comparable to Avaste Lourdes. We just don't know his actual level of power. So, first up, let's kind of gather what the Shikai really does. We know it's flame-based in some way. It's somehow fire-based, but it's clearly different than something like Yamamoto's blade, Hinamori's blade. I'm trying to remember if we have any other fire user Zanpakuto. And I mean Shinigami. I don't mean like a Ronka or anything. Do we have any other Zanpakuto that are fire-based? Off the top of my head, I don't think so, but I'm certain there are. I mean, fire is like a pretty common ability. Ryujin Jaka just happened to be like the godfather, like the head. He was the end-all, be-all fire Zanpakuto, more or less. But I'm sure there are other fire Zanpakuto. But this one seems to operate differently. It seems to be based more in his spiritual energy and his own body. And the reason I say that is he was able to use his blood, spit the blood in the blade, and it caused a huge effect. Like almost like his blood was an igniter. So I'm wondering if his Zanpakuto basically turns his body's energy, in essence his own body, into an ignition source of some kind. Clearly it has its standard form where it's got fire all of it, but he can use his actual body to enhance the power of his flames. His blood can basically be an ignition source. His Ryatsu is feeding the flames itself. If you were to sweat, it might do the same thing as well. I'm wondering if it's something like that. Again, it's just not very well defined what his Zanpakuto actually does. But I think it has something to do with his actual body. That the flames are derived from his own spiritual energy, his own body, and he can use his own body and spiritual energy to enhance the power of his flames. I'm wondering if it's something like that. Bugs, flies in there. Sorry. So going with that's where my mind's kind of going, is that his body acts as a ignition source, as a fuel for the flames, and the more he puts into it, the more powerful it gets. Whatever he puts into it may offer a different effect. His blood, again, just it's kind of basically like fire dancers or spitting fire, where they like that, basically like a spray effect. Where again, sweat might cause a different ability to activate, something along those lines. So then, what would the Bankai of this be? Well, I actually think we do know at least one thing stated by Aizen, is that Aizen states that his Bankai puts considerable strain on his body, rendering it unusable if he's heavily injured. And Isshin himself notes heavy injuries prevent him from fixing his Ryatsu properly, so hence why he can't activate it. So that tells us that it's a kind of Bankai that it's probably something similar to Ichigo, or honestly, Ryujin Jika's Yamamoto's Bankai, where it's something that clads his body in some way. Because he needs to fix his Ryatsu, he can't be injured because, like I said, his blood clearly acts as some sort of ignition source, or ignitant. Basically acts as a inflammatory agent. There we go. Acts as some sort of flammable, chemical. So it's very likely that if when he's heavily injured, if he were to do that, he'd probably destroy himself. Then again, like you said, he can't fix his Ryatsu, so it's probably just likely he can't activate his Bankai. Period. But first off, name-wise, what would the name of this be? I actually think because it's clear Ichigo got a lot of Zangetsu from his dad, hence why they're nearly the exact same name. It's just Scathing Moon versus Piercing Moon. That his Bankai's name probably would be Tensa Engetsu, heavily chained Scathing Moon, whereas Zangetsu is heavily chained Piercing Moon. So I honestly think that makes a lot of sense. Clearly they share the same attack. It's a Tensho, so it makes sense that another thing that probably came from the name is the Tensa, the heavily chained part. The only thing is that the actual name itself, the Zangetsu, is replaced with Engetsu, which then leads into the whole concept that I've seen. Anytime I do a theory video, particularly like with a Bankai, I do go to see what other people's theories on the Bankai were, and a lot of people seem to think that he turns more or less into like the Human Torch. That he's clad in flames, and that he's just burning. He's burning fiercely and stuff like that. Very kind of similar to Yamamoto's, but nowhere near to the same extent where Yamamoto could literally destroy the entire Soul Society, plane of existence with his Zanpakuto. That's how effed up that Zanpakuto's power is. I don't think Isshin's power is anywhere near on that level. That said, the idea that he wraps himself probably in like a flame cloak is probably accurate to some degree. It's clear that it's some sort of cloak or envelop or physical envelopment type Zanpakuto, if that term made any sense, where he's clad in his own power. Similar to Ichigo, similar to Hitsugaya, similar to Yamamoto, similar to those individuals. But remember, there's always like a secondary effect to this. Like Yamamoto has 4 different effects. 2 of them are constantly activated. Ichigo's wearing his Zanpakuto, but his actual ability is to compress his power down. Hitsugaya has the ice, armor and stuff like that, but it's, he's got God knows how many abilities that go with that. I would imagine it would be something similar. I imagine because if his whole body is being used as some sort of fuel for his Zanpakuto, that the full ability, the full range of the Bankai becomes that if he's injured, it's going to cause things to go wild. but maybe he's able to just pick and choose what he's using. Like if he needs to use some of his blood, he can. If he wrapped in sweat, just causing him the burn. I imagine that the more he moves, it'd be similar to what I predicted Love's Bankai is. The more he moves, the hotter he's getting. Um, Something along those lines, but to a somewhat different effect. The fact that he can probably use like wide ranges of heat, you know, wide range effects, things along those lines that you can't really get close to him. That would be like the key difference. And yeah, Love, I just realized Love was another fire type Zanpakuto. That loves. See, to go back to my Love prediction video, I predicted Love's Zanpakuto uses momentum and friction to basically ignite his blade, his giant war club, and his Bankai is a slimmed down but more deadly version of that. Isshin's clearly isn't that type of Zanpakuto. It's more of a, it seems to be more of a consistent burning type. So I imagine his is more, he can just use fire as, you know, wildly all he needs. Just stronger fire type Zanpakuto like Ryujin Jika out there. Like, how would this Zanpakuto pair against like someone like Toshiro, who's an ice type? But, you know, if you get to, you know, far enough into the fight, Toshiro could win against the fire type. How would that fare? I think, you know, he's first off, he's an older captain. So, I mean, if these two actually fought, I do think Isshin would be the winner. He's just an older, more experienced captain, and he's probably just overall strong. He was able to go toe-to-toe with Aizen, who was already somewhat transformed for a little bit. So, he's a strong captain. He was clearly a strong captain. Actually, it's interesting to see if we knew his full range of powers, Bankai or Shikai to Bankai wise, where we'd actually classify him in terms of captains. I can't put him on my list right now, obviously, because I don't know the full range of abilities. That's why Ukitaki's not on the list. Which, by the way, that video is coming later today. But yeah, I do believe I go with in the same boat as a lot of people. It's clearly a clad type Zanpakuto where you're wrapped in your ability. But it's not the same as something like Ichigo, which is just compressing his power down into a small blade. It's clearly a much more Keto elemental effect type of Zanpakuto. So yeah, something like a fiery cloak of some kind to make sense. But again, where he's controlling like the fuel source of his body and things along those lines. It's clear that his body plays a factor into his Zanpakuto. Like the fact that he just basically spits blood into it and just uses it like gasoline. Or alcohol kind of shows that his body plays a part in his Zanpakuto. It might be similar to, like, honestly, like Ryujin Jika's, in the sense that if it's activated for too long, it could start to destroy the Soul Society. If this is activated for too long, his Bankai, it might start to destroy him. So it's a very interesting Zanpakuto that I would, again, if I ever had, God willing, if I ever had a chance to sit down and talk to Tite Kubo, and be like, hey, you know, I'm just wondering, was there any plans for any more Bankai to be shown in the series, or did you at least have a concept for like a lot of people's Bankais, like Isshin's and stuff like that? I'd love to ask him that question, and better yet, ask him a question. Okay, and if that's the case, do you think you'd ever maybe be willing to do like one more supplemental data book or something like that, kind of going over some of the unanswered questions in terms of characters, some of their Zanpakuto, all that. I would love for that. You know, like Sternritter N and K. What were their numbers? Or what was their abilities overall? We're almost certain that Sternritter K's KGB9, I think that was his name, was the knowledge. But Sternritter and Robert Accutron, my best guess for N is it's either the nothing or the negation. That was probably what it was. Or the Nancy boy. Who knows? But yeah, that was probably what it was. One of the two. Those are the only two that really stand out to me. But yeah, that's my overall theory on what his Shikai kind of does, actually, and what his Bankai would probably be. Not the most detailed theory I've ever given on Zanpakuto, but still, that is my overall theory at this time. But let me know what you think. Do you think that's the best theory I could get out there, or do you think there are better theories? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Super Magic, what if, anything to do with the channel. Put that in the comments below as well. I'll get that at some point. So I'll be back in a little bit with both the Captain video and the what if that I haven't gotten to yet this week. So thanks for watching. See you next time.